Okay, so welcome to another episode of the Biohacker Blondie podcast. I'm so excited because we're here with Dr. Haroldo, and we're going to get all into toxins and detoxing, which is such a big topic right now. Everyone's kind of exploring all the toxins around us and realizing how much this is affecting our health. And it affects every part of the body. So I'm so excited for you to be here. And thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. If you can give an intro, and I know you have some interesting educational background as well, from dentistry to a physician. So welcome and tell us how you got into toxins and detoxing.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here. No, it's exciting. It's exciting topic. It's very important right now for human health. As you mentioned, I'm a dentist by training. I'm a periodontist actually. I was performing as a periodontist for 15 years more, probably than 15 years. I was also an academic, so I was teaching in different universities in my home country for also at the same amount of time. I was always very involved with the academia, and I love teaching. I love learning. I love researching. That's really ingrained in my background. And I decided that I wanted to come to the United States because I got curious about the root causes. And I always say this, I was a little bit frustrated with the typical answer I was getting from the standard communities of dentists when we were talking about what is causing all these chronic illnesses in the body. And we're seeing periodontal disease and other mouth diseases, but also this person is coming with X, Y, and Z metabolic disease. And it can be a coincidence, like everything is happening at the same time in the same person. And the answer was really very poor, not very exciting, or usually very disappointing, in the realm of, yeah, it is what it is. And that's going to be the same for the future, not when things are not going to change. So just keep doing your thing, keep putting antibiotics and doing surgical treatments. But you can't expect that this is not going to progress into a worse scenario and people are going to lose their teeth or they're going to get worse in their conditions. That is the case for everyone. And I don't like that. I didn't like that. I thought if there is a beginning, there must be a way to end it. Well, I connected with some people, amazing people like Dr. Malika, Dr. Berkowitz here was in the East Coast initially. And they led me to this path of biological dentistry and natural medicine. And then I got very knowledgeable and interested in the microbiome because I realized that was a huge piece of the puzzle and the root cause of all these diseases and more. And then over the years, after revising microbiome analysis over and over, I have been probably able to revise 5,000 metagenomic analysis for the microbiome part. Then I realized that the main driver that was imbalancing the microbiome were toxins. And then that was an aha moment for me. So I know the microbiome is well taken care of, but toxicity, not so much. It's hard to test. There's only a few protocols that are comprehensive. There's a price on those. Of course, they're hard to follow. There's a lot of issues with compliance. And as a practitioner, I was recommending all these things, and I was thinking, there must be a way to get this done better, simpler, but not losing efficiency. But we need to increase compliance. And so I went to the sketchboard. I got together with the two other founders of DetoxU company, and we brought the resources in and the science in. After a year long of research, we were able to develop what is now known as DetoxU, with all the product line that you know already, that probably we'll be discussing here, developing a scientific lab here in San Diego, and we're coming with a few surprises in the future. But we came very strong, very solid in putting together a protocol that can be actionable, can be simpler enough that people can follow it, and still is very, very comprehensive and very effective for taking care of this huge issue in modern days, which is toxicity.
Yeah. Did you see as a dentist, so were you seeing, the oral microbiome is such an issue for a lot of people with root canals, and we're discovering that goes straight to the brain. It's, the gut, everything. So were you seeing just like a connection with maybe root canals or gum disease or any of these things, and then you were like, "This what is the root cause of what's going on in the mouth?"
Yeah, well, that was my initial question. At that time, I didn't have answers. I was just curious to see what I could find out about it, and I came with no expectations whatsoever, just curiosity. But down the road, right now, I'm actually I wrote a white paper that I want to publish soon about the oral gut microbiome axis and how oral disease is a systemic disease with clinical symptoms expressed in the mouth. But unfortunately, this comes with a much deeper connection in body's pathways. And so when the microbiome in the mouth gets imbalanced, it's mainly because it's malnourished. So there's no nutrition coming in. And our main source of nutrients for the mouth microbiome to be thriving and healthy, etc., it's coming from the reabsorption of nutrients that happens at the GI level.
Mm.
So in the stomach and in the intestines, we have something that's called the enterosalivary circuit. So this is where you grab nutrients from the GI tract and bring them back to the salivary glands. And now
Ah,
you're flushing all these nutrients evenly, consistently, so you're feeding your mouth microbes. That's why most of the mouth microbiome stays in the surface. They're looking for these foods and they're grabbing them all day long as they're coming through the saliva from the reabsorption of nutrients
mm,
here. Oral disease happens when these guys are starving. That is fundamentally a reabsorption issue due to an impairment in the absorption of nutrients,
yeah.
typically coming from a dysbiotic issue on the gut microbiome. And knowing that toxicity, it's the main driver of dysbiosis in the gut, of course, has a
Wow.
huge role in bringing this issue back to the mouth. Now, that's why the microbes in the mouth, they start getting more anaerobic, so they like less oxygen environment because they're going deeper. This is like the miners going into cave. They don't see the nutrients up there, and so they try to get deeper to find something else they can use for survival. But
Wow.
they can't go as they are in the surface. They need to change, and that change and that adaptation creates these patterns that allow them to be deeper, and then they start using these structures. So in the tooth structure, that's called cavities. And in the gums and bone and ligament, it's called periodontal disease. It's just the same
Mhm.
thing. It's starving microbes looking for alternative food sources. But of course, you can have local issues, mercury fillings and braces and other
Area.
metal fillings, and of course, some chemicals that are overused, unfortunately. All
Mhm.
those things can have a local effect in the gut, in the mouth microbiome that can be detrimental. But always think about the main pathway, and the main pathway comes from here, from the gut. This is where you get all the nutrients on an even and daily basis. And this is the area that gets impacted the most by toxicity because
Mhm.
toxins fundamentally damage the microbiome and fundamentally damage the ability of your organs to
Mhm.
function properly to
Yeah.
massive areas.
We'll get into autoimmune, I'm sure.
We can.
But I'm sure everyone is having gut dysbiosis, gut permeability with all the toxins these days, and I never even thought about everyone thinks about, the mouth, the digestion, chew your food, you maybe eat spinach or beets or nitrates or something to get, things going in the mouth and feed it there, and then it goes to the gut, but no one's thinking I don't think most are thinking the gut to your saliva glands to the mouth, so that makes a really, really good point, and I think a lot of people are starving and don't have the nutrients because of gut permeability and gut dysbiosis. So take us back. So you went back to school also for
But those are right.
naturopathic physician, and you started studying the microbiome.
Yes.
And
So
so I wanna hear all about what you discovered, and is that really where you saw all these toxins and gut dysbiosis and gut permeability?
So while I was looking for well, my thesis, my final presentation with my training program was about the microbiome. And I already was aware that the microbiome was playing a huge role in modulating all these chronic illnesses that I wanted to find the root cause of. And through that journey, Of course, I started reading a lot of books. I started also connecting with other people that were interested in this area. I ended up moving to Denver a little bit later after I graduated. I moved to Denver because there was a clinic that they were really into biological dentistry, but also they were doing a lot of things on the biological medicine world with a lot of the input that we get from BioSwiss and Paracelsus clinic, all these big hubs of natural integrative medicine. And they were following their protocols, and it was very interesting for me. But also, I had the ability to work directly with gut protocols. And with that, I started looking at seeing patients that were coming with different conditions, everything to a certain extent mouth related, but was always something beyond that. So I was looking at lab work and other parameters, and through my assessment, one thing that came to me first as a coincidence, it was not something I really asked for, was a heavy metal panel. From a kid, she was 9 years old at that time, and her hair was falling down out of nowhere. They couldn't figure it out. And she had all these other type of issues, but at her age, of course, seeing a kid that was her hair was falling down and she was losing hair so much without any other explanation was, of course, very concerning to me. So I look at that panel, and one thing show up as very high. And you won't believe me that was uranium.
Uranium?
Yes. So I was like, what's going on here? Uranium, where are you getting uranium? Are you working in a nuclear plant or what's going on? So down the road, this was a journey. Of course, nothing came really quickly to my knowledge. But I found out that there are some areas in the Midwest that there are still significant amounts of uranium in soil.
Wow.
And some areas, some developments, they're actually they have some exposure to this chemical. And this was not the only time, by the way. This was one person, but then another one came, and then another one came, and then down the road, I was seeing this more than what you could imagine. And not only from Midwest, from other areas of the country. I was looking at
Where's
certain.
uranium coming from?
That's a long story. I unfortunately
Where to not live.
I can only hypothesize. I don't have a really conclusion or a confirmation about all this, my hypothesis about this. So I'd rather keep them for myself, but definitely was there on the analysis. And then I thought, okay, what else? Because this girl had a tremendous amount of issues on her, in her gut health. So I was, okay, what else? And then it just became a standard that because I saw the connection once and I saw the connection twice, then I started thinking on that, about that, and every single time. So whenever I was able to, I would run a toxicological panel alongside with a GI testing and the standard blood work. And over time, running hundreds and hundreds of these panels, yes, I couldn't, of course, not see this anymore, the connection between toxicity and gut dysbiosis. As I said before, I'm connected with a lot of companies that are working on the microbiome, and there's great tools for fixing the microbiome, for balancing the microbiome, for supporting the microbiome. But on the toxicity side, I saw that we were running short on resources. And not saying that there are not great companies out there besides us, because I did get positive results with some of them. But the complexity was always something I had in my mind. But at the end of the day, the journey became my own realization through, I will say, a blessing in this coincidence of putting all this information together and being able to see this in the same person and connecting the dots in a way that I don't think many people had been able to do so. So that led my journey. Honestly, that was fascinating for me on the clinical perspective. And of course, we helped the kid. And we start doing some binding protocols. And I got trained with academies for also IV chelation therapy. So I got deeper in this rabbit hole. I have my preference of what I like to use, but I check everything under the sun that can help people with toxicity.
I think we've skipped that too. I think for over the years when it comes to health, we've gone to like probiotics and doing these IVs and trying to give nutrients, and then we skip the detoxing. It's like that should be the first step in most protocols so that you can get the toxins out and then heal your gut. But a lot of people just go to thinking they just want to heal the gut. And 2026, we're surrounded by toxins. So, and I feel like it just gets worse and worse every year. So I think now people hopefully are waking up to this and realizing you can't, you're basically, if you're just putting a Band-Aid on something if you don't get the toxins out. So it's so important. When you were looking at all these lab panels, what was the most common toxins you saw?
It's hard to say, honestly. They vary depending on the location, and I will pinpoint the ones that I can recall. Probably that aligns in a certain way with the most prevalent ones, because if I can't remember them, they should be the most frequent ones. But the ones that I saw and especially on, again, the West Coast, in areas where a lot of farming occurs, I'm talking about Oregon and Washington State, I saw tremendous amount of pesticides
Mm.
beyond glyphosate. Glyphosate has a very short life inside the body. It's water soluble. It's still very damaging, but I saw so many more things like 2,4-D and atrazine and so many stuff. DDT residues. DDT is banned, but the metabolites are still
In the soil.
existing in soil. I see them all the time. Such a persistent pollutant. It
Wow.
is a POP, actually, by definition. And so those things are, and again, I start seeing issues, medical issues, health issues in people that were very young. I'm talking about
Mm.
high schoolers, not grown-ups, also grown-ups, but high
Yeah.
schoolers and kids in their 12 or 10-year-old still with a lot of issues. That's kind of one thing I've seen a lot in the industry. Every dentist and every hairstylist should be
Mm.
checking for VOCs
Mm.
and heavy metals. We
Yeah.
get exposed to so much of that stuff. I was off the charts loaded with mercury. And
Really? And
you know,
you didn't have mercury fillings?
no, I didn't. I never had a single one. But I was breathing mercury because every time someone came with a fracture of a filling, of a mercury filling, or a decay between the mercury filling, you have to remove that. You can't fix it.
Yeah.
Mercury fillings are not fixable.
In the
They
air.
just need to be removed. So you drill that thing with the drill that goes through a speed of 200,000 RPMs per minute, which is massive. And of course, you vaporize all that mercury in a second. And then you're breathing that. Nobody tells you to use a industrial mask. You use just a silly mask that does nothing, and you breathe all that mercury. Now compound that for 15 years in my case, probably on a weekly basis, removing one or two, and you breathe all that and gets in directly in your lungs, and that is a direct entry to your circulatory system. And from there, depending on the status of your liver and the status of your microbiome, you have different routes, and the most probable scenario is that you're going to get that accumulated in one place or the other. And then no wonder why 5 years after, everyone that gets exposed to this type of metals, and sometimes sooner, sometimes a little bit later, they start developing autoimmune conditions
Yeah.
and other sets of conditions. And that's not rare and is not openly discussed enough because we don't make the connection. When I saw my levels, I was so silly that I thought it was the tuna cans I was eating for my sandwiches I was bringing to work that was causing that issue. I
Oh
never even
god.
thought about the mercury that I was removing from because again, for getting into this space, you need to detrain yourself. You need to
Mhm.
go backwards in the traditional training and start thinking differently. That
Yeah.
takes a little bit longer to happen. Because you get so brainwashed that what you're doing on a daily basis is not going to hurt you, that is safe, that this, et cetera, that it's hard to reverse that process of thinking. When you
Yeah.
do, that there's no way back, that you can't see things otherwise. But up to that point, actually, I was not even realizing that I was hurting myself, and I was blaming the tuna cans. But they do have mercury, yes, but not to that level that I was toxic. I was completely poisoned.
Yeah.
And so, yes, that's another thing I will say, highlighting exposure and occurrence of toxins. These professions are tremendously impacted. That's why you see so many dentists and so many hairstylists. They're typically more women than men in that space,
Mhm.
hormonal imbalances, like around the corner all the time, mood disorders, anxiety, depression, and same with dentists. It's not a
think
coincidence.
I think my hairstylist has some of those issues, and
Biologic,
I won't use hairspray. I don't use hairspray anymore. I just
that's
won't.
not a good
I
idea.
think I have, like, a clean version one that I've used maybe once in 6 months, and that's it. Because 'cause I'm just like, I understand that breathing in toxins is not good at all for my system, and even if I'm walking by something where they're spraying plants with chemicals or fumes from the car or any of that, I try to, like, hold my breath
No.
because I don't want this. It goes straight to your brain too, like, everything we're sniffing is going to the brain, so my brain is very precious, you know?
Of
Uh,
course. No, it's
another
it's it's a
organ that
complicated world, and it's a very challenging world. And we make most of these decisions out of convenience, which
uh,
not necessarily are the best decisions, are the most comfortable decisions,
yeah,
not the most healthy ones. But there is a way that we can avoid a lot of
yeah.
these things.
And I think too, being preventable, wearing the right mask, you know, and we'll get into industrial chemicals, people working in these industries where it is harmful, or cleaning ladies who are sniffing all these chemicals, these cleaning agents all day, every day. A lot of people have jobs that are really hindering their health by these chemicals as well, or even farmers spraying pesticides or everything. So, you know, there's so many toxins in this world. What would you say the percentage? Do you think most people have toxins they need to be detoxing?
Yeah, absolutely. That unfortunately, I would love to say something else, and I would love to say that no, you need to test and to see if there's really something going on in your body, which I will still recommend. But the reality is that even from official agencies like CDC, we have reported amounts of toxins circulating in the body any given day of the week, regardless of the age or any other type of variable in the realm of the 200s and the bloodstream. And that's and 200 plus. So it's not even like the top tier of the amount of toxins we have. So knowing that, knowing those numbers, knowing that the country produces 84,000 chemicals on a yearly basis, different types of chemicals, that only 1% of those chemicals has ever been tested for human safety. And not necessarily that they're not bad for us, it's just they got tested. That's it. All the remaining chemicals, we don't even know the extent of harm they can create for humans. And they're used widely in different industries. The
Mhm.
worst part is that these are mostly synthetic compounds. We don't even know which route they will follow or if our body will be able to cope with this challenge to a certain extent. I'm actually dazzled that our bodies are quite resilient still, regardless of this massive exposure, but there are consequences and they can't be measured in an acute exposure scenario. There are consequences that will happen eventually 1 year, 5 years, 10 years down the road. We will call them with a certain name on the chronic disease labeling, and we never think, oh, but this, it's highly possible that is coming from all these years of me being exposed to X, Y, and Z chemical, and
Mhm.
maybe all of this compounded all together every day and more. And so we are not really good in tracing back our steps and looking what we have been exposed to. And then we just call it, oh, we got now an autoimmune condition. And we think, oh, that's bad luck. Maybe it was the gene, the genetic thing. And that's nothing to do with genes. There's nothing to do with this bad luck expression or, oh, you got too old and that was meant to be because you hit certain age. This all just a burden of toxins we're accumulating over and over since day one of our lives. A baby born today will never have a single day without toxicity exposure, a single day in their lives. That matters.
Right.
And probably it's coming from their development stage. It's coming from the placenta. That's
Mhm.
also critical. When we think about longevity, when we think about gut health, when we think about cognitive health, metabolic health, performance, even exercise performance, all the things that we want to improve and achieve are related to the status of your physiology, of your cells. And the main blocking agent, the main disturbing agent for all these things to happen properly and in an optimal range are toxins.
I know.
If you don't remove them, everything else is pointless.
It's so bad. Like, especially women, we have way more toxins with makeup and hair products and all these things as well. It just goes on and on with the toxins. And then a lot of people might even do a detox, but then keep the toxins going. So it's like you have to find out where the toxins are coming from, and especially even pesticides with our food system, and get rid of it because you don't want to, you can be detoxing, but if you keep putting in the toxins, it's not going to solve the solution either. So it's like we have to be detoxing and then also figure out where the toxins are coming from and stay away from those. And I know, like, when we met here at the Ultimate Wellness Conference in Miami, I think you're a big fan of like organic food, and you were talking about Pura Vida. I think you're asking the person at the cashier about organic milk and seed oils and everything. So you're very conscious of what you eat as well. So you live a very toxic free lifestyle, I'm sure.
Do my best. I mean, I'm aware that many of the things are not avoidable. That's
Yeah.
reality. So I'm conscious about that. And with that in mind, of course, I am properly supporting my detoxification pathways. I use binders regularly to reduce the accumulation and therapeutic recirculation of toxins. But of course, where I can make a decision, where I can put my hands and say this is acceptable or not, I always have that in mind and always try to make the best decision possible. I don't want this to be a burden for anyone in terms of sometimes we can't, sometimes it's hard. This country is unfortunately not the easiest country to make decisions in certain settings. I just go to an airport, try to find some healthy foods there. It's near impossible to get something that I would call healthy. I would rather not eat, and many times I don't. When I'm
Mhm.
traveling, I do a intentional fasting.
Yes.
For what it's worth, it might be a good thing. But yeah, it is hard. It is a hard challenge sometimes. But I am very conscious. I read the ingredients. Reading the ingredients is probably should be a standard for
Yeah.
everyone. I
Yeah.
mean, it's mind-boggling to me that when a person wants to buy a computer or wants to get a new phone, they will go through, I don't know, 3, 4 YouTube videos trying to see all the specs, all the new cool things, features, etc. Apps. They will do a whole review of everything they're getting, but when it comes to what they're going to be put in their mouth, they just go and buy it. They look at the front part of the package, whatever they see there that aligns with what they want, and that's it. Please turn the package and see the other side. Look at the ingredient list.
Yeah.
There's so much stuff there that you would never put in your mouth if you know what it is. And if you don't know what it is, probably shouldn't be something you will be buying and eating in the first place. But if you want to be a little bit more knowledgeable, Google it. Just check what's the ingredient about. You will find detergents and millions of other additives and chemicals that are not meant to be in anyone's food. And so you become empowered. And when you grow up a little bit and you become a family man, or a family woman, now you have a bigger role because you have to protect your children, you have to protect your family.
Mhm.
So being knowledgeable, it's also a way that you care for the
Mhm.
people you love. And people oftenly tell me, oh, but it's so expensive. It is not more expensive. The fancy things, if you want to buy anchovies from Spain, those are pretty expensive if you want to get the good versions of those. But the actual foods we will need to stay nourished and healthy, you pay probably a few cents more for an organic version, 20, 30 cents more. I
Yeah.
don't think that's prohibitive in any scenario to make the right choice. And by the way, you're supporting an industry is trying to do things better. So
Yeah. I
that's
love
an
that.
additional value.
I think so many people still, just eat junk food and think it's not affecting them. Like they don't really see how this is leading to autoimmune and certain diseases, and and not only that, but it affects you in that day. Like I can say the healthier you are, the less toxins you are, you will feel better day to day. And so that's what I don't think people understand. They still eat these processed chips and these cookies and thinking it's just going through their system and out and not realizing it's leading to disease and also disrupting your happiness and your energy day to day. So I think it's just hard to really let people understand that they're not really living a healthy, like happy lifestyle on a daily basis, you know? And so they have to get over that mentally, I feel like, for them to understand, because I think people know those ingredients are not good. Like, you're like, "Those 20 ingredients where I can't even pronounce them, those are not good for me."
Yeah, unfortunately, it's coming from other places. It's absolutely what you said. It's true.
Yeah.
It's not out of lack of information. We
Yeah.
live in the era of information today.
Yeah.
But if you see people lining up in fast food chain restaurants, it's not because they're going there knowing that's the healthiest option. They're going there out of the convenience and the addiction. And we have done not really a good job in reversing the concept that people shouldn't be sick, period. We normalize disease as something that is a given, that should happen to anyone sometime in their lives. And unfortunately, in this world today, sooner than later, we normalize that addictions and food should be just something that gives us pleasure,
Yeah.
and it checks the box of I ate one meal a day, and I keep doing whatever else I need to do. That eventually that's going to have a toll in your body, but also we're not going to connect the dots because the cumulative burden didn't happen so quickly that we will be connecting the dots with everything we did on a daily basis to create that scenario in the first place. When we start looking back, or we are aware on the conscious level that what we're putting in our mouth, it's loaded with toxins and chemicals, and it's something that's going to create damage in our body, and we start realizing that we're valuable, that we matter, and that everything we do in terms of our decisions will dictate how great we're going to experience this short journey we call life. Then you see this with a different angle.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, again, addictions are around the corner, and these things are meant and developed and created with addiction patterns in mind. And that is sad. That's why I'm sensitive about it. I know that avoidance it's ideal, and many people know about these things, but they still are trapped and they can't get out.
Get out of this cycle. It's honestly insane when I look at foods that people are eating, and I'm like, "How do you even think that's food?" And I'm like, I mean, you can easily cook some acorn squash, some beets or something in the oven. It literally takes 2 seconds to chop it up, maybe a minute. You put in the oven, that's it. It's done. Like, you just have to do whatever for an hour and take it out. That tastes great to me because I feel like I haven't eaten chips or any of these things in so long that I'm not addicted to it. And I really love those types of foods, whole foods. I love vegetables, fruits, meats, dairies, like all of it that's just whole, you know? And it's like,
That
where
is
have we
fantastic.
gone in this world thinking that this stuff tastes good?
I don't think they taste good at all. I mean, that's my personal opinion. And the last time I checked, it was terrible.
I don't
I
know
remember
how we
when it
got
was.
to this.
I think it was in the airport. But yeah, I just like okay, one time maybe. It's just terrible. It just tastes bad. But
Yeah.
that's when you get adjusted to real food, the actual real food.
Yeah.
And these things they taste synthetic. They taste plastic.
I know, and it's the craziest thing how we got here, so let's start talking about DetoxU,
Mhm.
toxins, and how it works because I also wanna, like, explain the whole body system of detoxing. So I don't think a lot of, people understand how the liver and the bile works and everything, and how we make sure all those systems are able to so you created DetoxU to kind of, contribute to all those systems to help really detox instead of getting stuck and recycling toxins.
Yes. So the body does a beautiful job detoxifying every day. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here,
Yeah.
and not for too long, with all these challenges, as we spoke. But there is an excessive amount of challenges today. So we also know that detoxification system in the body. It's naturally connected to some molecules, some things that are naturally occurring in nature that will have a positive input in the performance of these cells and organs to improve what they're doing on a daily basis in terms of detoxification and many things more. So some of these molecules, probably many people heard about them, like antioxidants, and we know that they are protecting oxidative stress. But there's way more things than just anti-inflammatory botanicals, like turmeric, for example. Everyone heard probably about turmeric, and we know it's a known anti-inflammatory. But there's way more than just that anti-inflammatory effect in the body. So when we start learning about this profound connection we have, which is, by the way, beautiful, that our body learned to adapt and respond through the exposure to these different molecules. And now we have all this receptor system. That's antennas that are receiving input from different places, different type of information, and they do things when they get exposed to. Let's say, again, they get exposed to turmeric, they will do something, or dandelion or mill thistle and all these botanicals, and they will click something internally, and that will activate more a receptor and will keep things moving and processed in the most optimal form. So through my entire research, what I realized is that there's many botanicals that do these functions. And because there's no really a huge specificity, we can find the ones that are covering certain areas and overlap that with other ones and bundle them in a way that will cover all the detoxification process from A to Z and upregulate each of those receptors. We know they're participating in this process, and so we can optimize their performance. The idea here is using nature as a natural element to improve and optimize the performance of our organs that are already doing a lot. And on the side, the other main role we have for these botanicals is preventing collateral damage. So we are trying to support their function, optimizing their function, but at the same time, we're protecting them. We're giving them support, a safety net where they can operate, but they don't get damaged while they're trying to manage and excrete all these toxins out of the body. And that combination creates a perfect blend of things that are needed to cope with the modern challenges, because our body can only do as much on a single day basis. So there's no way we can go above our physiological capabilities. There's no way we can go super physiological and build something extra, another leg or arm that can do more. We have a limit. So within that limit, we always want to be in that optimal range if we want to survive and adapt or cope at least with all these challenges. This was not needed 50, 60 years ago because we never had so many toxins around. So what we had working at that pace was fine. But now it became a modern necessity. And so the products are meant to do that, to optimize things, but also to provide safety in the elimination process. Because your body does a great deal of effort to push things out of the body, but unfortunately, through the elimination route, things can get reabsorbed. And that's when we have another product that we combined with the liver and kidney and cell support product that is called Remover. So we have another product that works around that issue and grabs toxins in the GI tract so they can't escape the elimination route. It's our safety net that prevents recirculation of toxins and cutting from the root this endless cycle of bringing things back and forth inside and outside our body, dragging all these resources that are so precious and we need so much for other things.
Yeah. So there's definitely detoxing protocols. And some of these are very quick protocols. And trying to understand how toxins work and circulate, and do they all go through the liver? Because they're finding toxins all over our body, plastics, they're saying, and testicles, and all these things, and probably chemicals in our brain. So how does the detoxing system work? And then how do we grab onto these toxins and get them out?
So generally speaking, I will give you the general overview. The main route we use for detoxification is the liver route, the hepatic route. So typically speaking, any cell that is exposed to toxins that had some accumulation of toxins will push the toxins out, and these toxins will land into the circulation. Sometimes they arrive into the circulation right away. Sometimes they arrive from other sources and other routes, but eventually everything lands into your circulatory system, into your bloodstream. And from there, we have some parallel system that we call the lymphatic system. And that also is grabbing all this waste from different areas of our body. And that also gets carried into our circulation. And that ultimately lands as anything else into the liver, because that's our clearing system. That's where we go through multiple times a day with our blood to get cleared and managed and supported in ways that it can become, again, useful for us. So the liver does all this cleansing system process for us. And so this blood arrives into the liver and then is received by cells there that are called the hepatocyte. Hepatocytes are very specialized cells that they can do a lot of things to transform and modulate toxins and make them more manageable. Now, every cell of the body can do the same, but the hepatocyte is especially good in doing this. And so what happens is that we have a molecule coming that is a toxin, and we want to eliminate that toxin out of the body without creating much damage. We want to do this seamlessly and without any collateral damage in between. So how our biology decided to do this? It grabs a molecule. Most of the toxins we have in our environment, naturally, especially occurring molecules that are toxic, are liposoluble. They dissolve, they're attracted to fats. So these guys are tricky because when you have something that has affinity for fats in a body that has so much fat, it's a dangerous place to be. So the body knows this. So we know that for mobilizing this thing out of the body through the sweat, through the kidneys, or through the stools, we need to transform this. It can't be fat soluble anymore. So what the body does is going through a transformation process where it grabs a molecule, a toxin in this case, bites a piece out of this molecule. That's what we call phase 1 or activation phase. It makes the molecule reactive to another thing. In this case, it's like, again, exposing some area with sand, with sandpaper. We are going to put glue on the top, but first we need to get that area exposed so the glue actually attached to that area. So the same thing we do here with this toxin. We're just going to remove a little piece of that. So now we can put something on the top. That something on the top, it's happening on the phase 2 of the detoxification process. And we call that conjugation. It's typically an amino acid. And what we do there is we bind this amino acid with this molecule we wanted to eliminate. So it becomes now, because it's now coupled with this amino acid, water soluble. So it's not liposoluble anymore, it's water soluble. In that form, it's way more manageable. So it's going to not get reabsorbed through the emulsification process on the bile flow. It's not going to get attached to fatty tissue, especially it's not going to go to the brain now because it doesn't have that affinity anymore, and it can be excreted and sent out of the body efficiently. That's the whole thing that happens internally. The problem is that there's a few risk factors there. When you do the activation part, the first step, and you bite the chunk of this molecule you want to eliminate, it becomes more reactive, meaning that becomes more damaging than the original molecule. And that is where you can get oxidative stress, that you can damage the structures that are at the same time managing this molecule to make it go through phase 1 to phase 2 to get conjugated. So through that process between phase 1 and phase 2, this molecule is super reactive and goes there and it can create damage on the side. That's where antioxidants are so needed there, because we're protecting the body from this damaging element. Meanwhile, it's getting conjugated. And now when it gets conjugated, it's safe. Now it's coupled with this amino acid, it's neutralized. It's not an actual toxin anymore. I mean, it is in a sense, but it's coupled now. It's bounded to something else, so it doesn't respond and doesn't react in the same way that it was behaving when it was just that toxin without anything else on the top. Now, the third step is the elimination route. So what we call phase 3. There's a lot of receptors in the mix that I don't want to bring up right now. There's a lot of names, NRP system, a B-step system, etc. So a lot of things that are present in this modulation process. But you're going to send that molecule out mainly through the biliary tree system. So it lands typically in the duodenum on your small bowel, and it's supposed to go out now. That's an elimination route. So it's supposed to leave the body one way or the other. Unfortunately, with all the leaky gut issues, inflammation, dysbiosis, etc., there's a high chance nowadays that that molecule that was ready to leave and packed now gets reabsorbed and goes back
into the
to the
bloodstream.
stream and back to the liver again, and it needs to be processed once more. And typically, the recycling of that molecule makes the molecule more damaging than the original molecule that we wanted to eliminate in the first place. That's why this is not an actual toxin, but just as an example, when we recycle estrogen that leaves the body initially, it's a quite benign molecule of estrogen, but when we recycle estrogen through the same pathway, for various reasons that can happen, we get the most inflammatory form of estrogen. It's called 16-hydroxyestrogen. And this applies to many other molecules and, of course, toxins. There's even some microbes in the gut that they produce something called beta-glucuronidase, which is an enzyme. What this enzyme does breaks the bond between a conjugated molecule and the amino acid that was coupled to this toxic molecule. And by doing that, releases the parent compound, the toxin, back to circulation. Because these guys, they're after the glucuronic acid molecule, by the way, that's made out of glucose, partially. So they want the sugar. They're actually getting food for themselves. But in that process, they will cut the bond, and now we have the whole process messed up, and that molecule goes back again into circulation. This is just a few examples of all the elements that can interfere with this process, and how important it is now to put together a safety net in place that can prevent all these elements from occurring. And now we have a safety mindset that everything we're doing, all our efforts are going to pay off, because we have a predictable form where these molecules are going to be eliminated out of the body without getting reabsorbed. That's what we want: predictability and safety in this operation.
And this is with the binder of DetoxU?
So that's where the binder is so important. Okay. So mineral binders work at the GI level. They're not chelators. Chelators, they don't prevent reabsorption from occurring. That's the difference. That's a concept. I get the question all the time. Oh, why don't you use chelators? Chelators, they're not going to prevent the reabsorption part. They operate at the bloodstream level, but they won't operate at the GI level. And then with that in mind, you want these mineral binders. They have different magnetic charges. So some of them are positively charged, some of them are negatively charged. So we have a broad spectrum of polarities that are acting as magnets, grabbing these different types of molecules. And so they get attached to them, and they make them so large, so big now, that they can't go back because they're too large. It's like trying to pass an elephant through the through the door. Thus they can't, and now they have to leave.
I never knew why some binders work on some things like heavy metals or this toxin or that toxin, but the polarity, I guess,
polarity is super important.
I never
That's
thought about
why
that.
you get the binder with a couple of mineral binders only, and they tell you, oh, this is your detoxification protocol. Red flag there, because that's going to work, but only for a few. Now, how I can say to someone, well, this is the only ones that you should be caring about? I don't know. And even if I test for toxins, that's also a partial vision of the whole thing. I prefer to have everything in place, ready to capture whatever is crossing those pathways so it can be eliminated. I don't want to take chances after all the effort my organs are doing in eliminating things to just lose the chance of elimination at the very last minute. I just want to cover everything at once and know that it's being handled properly.
Yeah, get them out, get the toxins out. Are
Yeah.
you so explain how DetoxU works because you have different programs and then they do different things for different toxins.
Yes. So we have first what we call the general detox bundle. That's only two products. The products we were mentioning before. We have one product called Remover and the other product called Binder. These two products, they work synergistically. So Remover is the ultimate combo that we put together for supporting hepatocyte function, kidney function, drainage from the lymphatic and circulation, and also cell support. So your liver function, your kidney function, your cell functionality, and everything that has to be mobilized properly through lymphatic and blood, it's all taken care of with different botanicals. That was a very complex blend to put together. Was a huge challenge, and we were able to make it happen after a year of research and development. Now we have it, and it works beautifully for optimizing all these pathways. But again, as I said before, that covers only until the toxin gets excreted into the GI tract or the kidneys, and then we need to eliminate that properly, and that's where the binder comes into place, grabbing all these molecules. But also we have other ingredients in the binder product. Shilajit, we have aloe, and we have molybdenum. Why? Shilajit, beautiful for donating fulvic acids, which are also really important for detoxification, and they help with sealing the tight junctions in the GI tract. So they help these tight junction proteins to stay close when needed. The aloe zoots the gut lining, so the passage is more efficient. The mobilization of these things is done more properly. And then molybdenum, this is actually less known. It's one of the primary cofactors for sulfation, which is typically why people are suffering from sulfur intolerances. Like a lot of people that probably you heard before, they will tell you, I can't eat broccoli because I get flare up and it just makes me feel so bad, or I take a glutathione supplement and I just can't handle it. Most of the times they have a sulfur issue and they can't metabolize sulfur compounds because they do have a deficiency in the cofactor needed for that, which is molybdenum. So we added that to support that tolerance.
Wow, interesting.
So those are the two main products we use. And that's the product, those two products, they stay with any focus protocol. Now, we created 3 focus products that can be bundled with the general detox bundle. And that makes it what we call the focus protocol, or the focus line. So we have an industrial focus, mold focus, and a heavy metal focus. The names are pretty straightforward. So basically, these focus products, they add an additional support to the elimination of certain specific toxins when needed, especially if you got tested or you have known sensitivities. A lot of people with mold issues, they know right away, I get into this place and I feel completely off, I need to leave. So when people know their exposure and their potential dominant toxin type, they can use a focus product that can be bundled to the general detox bundle to support the process more efficiently. Everything at the end of the day will be managed by these 2 systems that are supported by the general detox bundle. But for example, mold focus has tons of antioxidants, and also it has a lot of botanicals that will support the microbial modulation, especially at the GI level. Why we did that? Because every person with mold issues, they do have typically a dysbiotic environment in the gut. So this allows correcting the overgrowth, supporting the tissues that are typically getting damaged by the exposure to mold toxins. So we have plenty of different types of antioxidants coming from rosemary. We have also antimicrobials like garlic and clove and oregano, not in their resinous oil form, not in the very potent format, in the natural state where they provide microbial modulation and not killing microbes massively, which is something I don't really agree with. The industrial focus, for example, another focus product, protects your lungs from particles that are naturally occurring in the air. I mean, not naturally, but they're frequently found in the air that are coming from all the exhaust pipes and the industrial pollution. So it has yerba santa that protects your lung tissues, so we can capture these toxins before they enter the circulation through that route. But
Wow.
also you have glycine, which protects and helps the issue with glyphosate, because
Mm,
glyphosate mimics and displays glycine, which is critical for your health. We added NAC to boost glutathione production in
mm,
that product, and so on and so forth. So that product is well-rounded for industrial exposures, especially pesticides and exposures to airborne pollutants, people who are commuting a lot, driving 50 miles a day to get to their jobs, or people who are traveling by plane a lot. Perfect product for them. And the third one, heavy metal, is pretty straightforward. We added an extra layer of safety for mobilizing toxins from heavy metal nature into the liver and then properly excreting them. The magic here happens with the certain so-called weak binders that we included in that product. And I know they're called weak binders because they're not strongly bounded to the heavy metal, and they can have the risk of recirculating heavy metals in the body if they're used alone. But in this case, we're using them to shake loose these toxins, especially heavy metals. They tend to grab into tissues in the body so strongly, they
mm.
stay there for years. I have people tested for heavy metals that they know they got exposed to 30, 40 years ago. They're still present in their bodies. And so with that in mind, we know that it's hard to release them from where they get storage. So what we do is we shake them loose with these weak binders. They're not so weak for that part. They're just helping me mobilizing these toxins and dumping these toxins into the bloodstream. And now we have the safety net plan in place, which comes with the strong binders that we have in the binder product and the liver support on the remover product. Bundle all together becomes a very effective, not weak at all, very effective protocol for taking care of heavy metals. And it has other ingredients like modified citrospectin or sodium alginate that they also work at the local level at the GI tract.
So, how long is the protocol? Because I know some of these protocols can cause Herx reactions and your body can get overwhelmed with detoxing. So, how long does this protocol work?
Ideally 6 months.
Okay.
So the extent of usage is based on the rationale we did when we were putting together these products. I realize most companies will recommend 3 months. 3 months on paper looks great. I can validate that because I've seen that every time I was retesting patients at 3 months after starting a detox. So what they do is like we see a very important flush of toxins within those 3 months. On paper looks great, but in order to repair your organs that were suffering, they were stressed by the exposure to all these toxins, we need to sustain the low levels for longer. And that additional 3-month time frame allows us to do that, to accomplish that. You can use it for 3 months, absolutely. But the recommended extent of time that you should use these products, it's 6 months. That gets you to a resilient place, to a repairing place. That is hard to achieve at 3 months. Now, Herx reactions you were mentioning are typically when we're forcing things. The industry recently, the past 5-10 years, I will say the past 5 years mostly, became a little bit crazy about potency and delivery. Like try to force things or going super high in potency and try to get things done very strongly. I see an issue with that in terms of the proper stimulation of the receptors that I'm very mindful and very respectful for. We don't need much to improve the efficiency of the cells and activate these receptors better. We need just a little bit because there's a line. If we cross that line, and let's say a person is somehow sensitive and needs just enough of a certain molecule to stimulate their body, and they give them 3 times more, instead of getting the benefits due to the hormetic effect of all these molecules, it will maybe get or fall into a more toxic type of response. Not the optimization response we're looking for.
Mm.
So with that, we adjusted the potency of the ingredients in a way that they will work through time, giving you the proper stimulation a little bit at a time so it's becomes sustainable. Otherwise, what happens, you overstimulate the receptors, you overwhelm the receptors, and then two things can happen. Either your cell stresses out and creates more damage than good, or you shut down the receptors for good. And then it will take a while until you reactivate these receptors again. And if the receptors are shut down in any cell, you get nothing out of that cell.
Mm.
So we lose one soldier in the battlefield.
And with these herbs, I know some people might say like oregano or something, you shouldn't be taking it for so long because it can disrupt the gut microbiome or something. So, have you also done studies knowing that taking these for 6 months over that whole period of time is okay for the gut?
Yeah, the problem with oregano and other antimicrobial molecules that you can find in certain botanicals is that they're extracted. So the molecules are extracted on a resinous form, an oil form, and that makes them extremely more concentrated. When we give the body the decision making in terms of how much it's going to use from all these plants, then the response is typically mild and it doesn't create or doesn't cross the line of balance. It just stays on a balanced place because now the body's making the decision. Okay, I'm having oregano leaf here, which is almost like what you will get in your pantry. So you can extract the antimicrobial molecules. They will be released to a certain amount, but it's going to be mild enough that's going to just control the overgrowth, but it's not just massively killing microbes. Now you get the oils or the resins. That's extremely more concentrated. Now you don't have that decision making on your physiological pathways, and the response is way stronger. And that's when you cross the line and you get the antimicrobial effect, like the strong antimicrobial. So in this format, we're using the natural state of the botanicals. So we stay on that safety side. That was very, very intentional, by the way. I put this together with that in mind. I could have wrapped oils and put them there, and it will create a very strong response on the antimicrobial side. I didn't want that. I was super mindful.
What about, I know everyone's talking about detoxing. Also, there's no parasite detoxing. Would this be something helpful for parasites?
It has some antiparasitic botanicals like clove and garlic, to mention a few. You have cistus also in Canus there, which is a beautiful microbiome modulating plant. But in the spectrum of antiparasitic botanicals, there's a few there. Now, we're not going strong after parasites. Now, my take in the future, maybe, there's a take I have in terms of the parasitic infection concern. Parasites are very relying typically on the status of your GI tract. And one of the main issues in the GI tract are toxins. So when you remove toxicity, it typically becomes a less benign, less thriving ecosystem for parasites to stay.
Yeah.
So detoxification can be, at the very least, the first line of action to treat or to support antiparasitic treatments or protocols, because it helps at the level of terrain regulation.
Yeah. I know
Which
I've always thought they feed off of each other, like the parasites kind of feed off of the heavy metals and all that. So it's like they love that type of environment. And
Yes.
so, yeah, if you can get rid of that environment, that makes sense that probably the parasites won't be able to live if you have a healthy gut.
Exactly. And you have the extra benefit that I didn't mention in all this time, immune system.
Yeah.
When you remove the toxicological burden, there's a much better place for your immune system to respond.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember, the immune system uses a lot of resources out of your body. And it can, again, only do as much on a single day basis. If you're using and dragging all your resources to cope with the toxicological challenges, there's not much left for your immune system to do other things and check on other potential issues, like, for example, opportunistic infections. Now you've removed that dragging element, a resource element, and then you give your body back the resources to take care of other things that were left out.
Yeah.
And so that's super important. Beyond the fact that the immune system gets triggered directly by the activity of toxins, I can connect the dots here in multiple ways in terms of immune health and toxicity. But at the very least, we're giving the immune system resources to operate on an optimal level and prevent any type of co-infections or infections going on in the body.
Yeah. The founder of DetoxU, I'm sure you're doing a lot of testing on yourself and probably in the past. Have you only had heavy metal toxicity? Have you had mold toxicity, pesticide, all those? And then I want to hear also like what you've done and then also, taking DetoxU now. What's your protocol?
So heavy metals was my aha moment. Then kept testing. I had mold,
Okay.
several mold toxins, which are pretty common,
Yeah.
but still not necessarily a good thing to find. And I had a few pesticides in my body. You eat organic. Organic, it's great, but it's not a guarantee that nothing is going to be there. That there's so many things found in soil that are going to be grabbed by the plant, even if you're not intentionally spraying them with something. So I'm always mindful about that. But with that in mind, yeah, I had many. Some things are just removed by the activity of the binder. So there's no more concern there. But because of my mercury levels from before, I still use the heavy metal focus bundle
Mm.
until today. That has been my main protocol. The mold, I removed the exposure and it disappeared. Some mold toxins they want. Unfortunately, it depends a little bit of the person, but the East Coast where I used to live, loaded with mold. So I knew I had mold there. I stepped out of that place, moved to a different place. I'm now in the West Coast. Now much better. That got significantly improved. But the other things like heavy metals are always my concern. There's so many sources of heavy metals, including rice, for example, with arsenic, which is huge. And there's a lot of arsenic in soil, unfortunately,
I
even in the
know.
United States.
Even
There
like
are worse
sweet
places.
potatoes. I just did a podcast with the founder of Peori and he couldn't even come up with it's like a carb supplement and they were gonna do sweet potatoes, but there was so many heavy metals. They just couldn't and people don't think of this or rice or things that are growing in our soil from the heavy metals. It's
So
shocking.
much.
Yeah.
So knowing that, I realized, okay, I have to be proactive. I mean, I need to eat something. I know these
I
things
know.
are
What's not toxic?
yeah. So that's what
Chocolate.
I'm trying to always highlight, that avoidance is amazing, but doesn't get you exactly in the best place that you want to be. You need to do one extra step, a step for protecting yourself.
Yeah.
So, and also there's so many other benefits in terms of supporting your liver function, your kidney function, and your cells. And we have things in the remover product and in every focus product, you have something called the cellular detox matrix, which is
Mm.
a proprietary blend of 3 ingredients: phosphatidylcholine, alpha lipoic acid,
Mm.
and PQQ. So we're
Mm.
going very intentional with mitochondrial support, antioxidant support, glutathione recycling, and membrane protection. All those things considered. And of course, we have many more ingredients supporting those pathways, but that is a blend that you will find in every product except for the binder, because it doesn't make any sense to put it there. So your mitochondria are supported. And if you use the focus product, you get double the amount of PQQ, so more support to your mitochondria, because we know that you probably have a bigger challenge. So for me, it has been a game changer, energy-wise,
Mm.
sleep-wise.
Mm.
I'm back to be myself
Well,
because the toxins are not getting in the way
yeah.
as much. And this is something that, again, has been life-changing for me, and also something I hear from many people that are using the protocol.
Yeah.
And I don't like overpromise. I'm very scientifically oriented, and I'm a clinician first and foremost. But getting all this feedback about people telling me I got my energy back, my brain fog is gone. Like I feel I can do more things. I don't have that energy decline in the middle of the day. Sinuses seems to be clear. I have one person reporting my floaters in the vision, they're gone. I don't know if I have to take credit for that, but I mean, I know there's so many benefits in taking toxins out of the equation in a bigger way. That pays off. And then again, you add If you want microbiome protocol, well, you have a beautiful terrain for your gut now because
Mhm.
all the organs are working alongside to keep that in place. Now your probiotic works better. You want to give your cells creatinine nutrients. Well, now you need to use them properly. Now you have the resources for doing that. You want to do an immune protocol. Well, now you took out this negative element out of your immune system. Now you can get that done more properly. You want to repair, you want longevity, anything you can
Yeah.
imagine works directly in conjunction with the level of toxicity you might have. If you reduce the toxicity in your body, like the sky is the limit for anything else.
I know. I think it's the cause of most disease or most mental issues or most autoimmune or like all these things that we have normalized. And I feel like most people have one of those of, maybe anxiety, even, or any of these things all come from toxins. So it's like, everyone needs to be detoxing and I want everyone to not, to feel as good as they can because I feel like people are running around with brain fog and mental issues and depression and all these things and it all comes from this buildup of toxins and then the more toxins you have, the harder it is to detox. It's just like it's
Exactly.
like this cycle. So and then so how long have you been taking this protocol yourself and can you keep taking it?
Oh yeah, I'm keep taking it. I mean, this is a
Okay.
daily thing for me. I've been using this since I got the first test batch in my hands.
Okay.
I was the first person to use the products,
Okay, you were the
and
guinea
I'm
pig.
of course. I mean, I wanted to, and I did some crazy experiments with myself. Another time we can talk about that, but
Okay.
it was funny. But the idea is that when I started taking these products, I got only the first two initially. So I got
Mm,
the binder. Actually, I got the binder first, then I got the remover. I recall. And so I started taking the binder, and then binder I stopped for 3 months before resuming.
mm,
That's something I always recommend. Use the binder for 6 months max, and then give your body a break. Binders, they can have some harsh effect on the gut lining if they're used for too long, not for 6 months, but you use them for a year or more. Yeah, it's not probably going to be the best thing for your body. So we are conscious about that. Some people tell me, "Oh, but binders are going to bind minerals and vitamins." I always reply with this answer. Well, what do you want? You want to use something that you know it might drag out some nutrients that you can intentionally replace afterwards, or you want to have the toxins dragging your nutrients 24/7 with no control or supervision whatsoever. I would prefer to take the risk of reducing some of my nutritional elements and then replace them because I know that I'm doing this intentionally rather than accumulate toxins all the time, and having this unpredictable scenario for my nutrient availability in place. This is very intentional. But with that in mind, we'll say 6 months is a great time frame. Stop always for a couple of months, 2, 3 months, and then resume if you need to.
mm.
I don't want protocols to be endless. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
When I created the protocols, I've been using the remover. That's the most consistent protocol, and with heavy metals, and then binder again goes on and off.
Mm,
The heavy metals I use it only when I use the binder. The remover stays always. There's nothing wrong with using the remover on a permanent basis
mm.
because it just optimizes liver, kidney, and cell functionality. The heavy metal focus needs to be used with the binder, so I go back and forth with those.
Okay.
So far uh, I I'm pretty much I'm gonna hit a year with
Mm.
those different adjustments.
Interest
But yes, we need to be mindful that protocols are meant to serve for a cause, and then they need to be stopped. You
Yeah.
can do maintenance. Again, you can use the remover for a long term, but I don't want anyone to be doing a protocol forever
Yeah, yeah.
because that makes no sense from a clinical side. If you have something you want to improve, and you use a protocol for that purpose, you should see the results and the protocol will get you there, then you don't need to use the protocol anymore
Mhm.
for a certain amount of time. The only issue with toxins is that we have them so much in the environment that Eventually, it will be a good idea after a year, after 2 years, depending on the person and the exposure. And maybe if is the person is able to test their levels, they can decide when resuming, and then we can do another round of a detoxification support protocol. Because unfortunately, this is coming back naturally from the environment.
Yeah.
But I don't like to encourage anyone to use this on a permanent basis, because
Yeah.
otherwise defeats the purpose of going after the root cause, which was the main intention when I put together these protocols.
You can take the remover and the binder at the same time.
Yes.
So I know we're going off of this
Mhm.
over time, but I just a few more questions about the
Of course.
product. That first, I want to ask about the best time to take it. And then, because we were talking about binding onto other supplements or anything. And then also, is it okay to take the remover and the binder together if it's going to bind onto some things with the remover?
Sure. Away from meals. Always an hour at least away from meals and medications. If people are using, somebody's using extended release medication, check with your doctor. He can tell you specifically the half life of the product, and you can time that accordingly. You don't want to overlap the binder with any pharmaceutical that you're using for any reason. But in a typical scenario, unless it's an extended release format, all pharmaceuticals, with all the pharmaceuticals and foods and supplements, nutritional supplements, if you wait an hour, you should be safe. So an hour is the minimum time I would like always to wait before taking the products. Twice daily is the dosage. 2 capsules of each product. Every product has the same amount of capsules. That's also intentional. We did that on purpose. I adjusted the amount so you don't have to remember, oh, this bottle is two capsules. This is 1, this is 3. No. The manufacturing company hate me. I told them I want 2 capsules only, and we did it. So for all the products we have, the dosage is 2 capsules twice daily. That's the ideal dosing. Can be taken 3 times daily? Yes. Some people will need more. Can be taken you can take once daily or maybe half of the dosage, depending on the case. So we can adjust. There's a lot of flexibility, but twice daily is the standard. Ideally, I will say, unless your routine is a little bit weird or not so conventional, grab the capsules, put them in your pocket, grab your breakfast, eat your breakfast, put the timer 1 hour, and take all capsules together. Either if you're using the general detox bundle or a focus bundle, doesn't matter.
Okay.
Where's the key here? The binder has a time release capsule. So the binder is released separately later. When you take all the products, you will stimulate pretty quickly. Actually, between 15 and 30 minutes, you will stimulate your liver and your digestive system with the remover. If you're using a focused product, same rationality there, but the binder will kick a little bit later. Will kick 45 minutes averagely after the remover kicks in.
Okay.
So it blends the activation in a timely manner that makes it very synergistic, very efficient with the synergy there. And you don't have to time the binder separately, which is something that's very common in detoxification protocols. And it's a hassle. I forgot half of the times to take the binder separately when I was using other protocols, because I took one product and then, okay, 30 minutes after I have to take the other one. Then I start doing something else I forgot.
Yeah.
So this simplifies the equation so much. Just take it 1 hour away, at least 1 hour away from meals, supplements, nutritional supplements, and medications. Anytime, it's a good time. And I will say also, don't take the products too close to bedtime. There's nothing really fundamentally wrong with doing that. It's just you want to be vertical, in a vertical position, or at least seated for a certain amount of time until these products, they travel and they open and they have some prokinetic activity. So the horizontal position is not really the best for the first, I will say, hour after taking the products. So try not to go to bed right away. Time the intake a little bit separate from your bedtime. Some people don't feel anything, but just a recommendation on the side for people that might be more sensitive while taking certain products.
Good to know.
But that's the dosing. That's the rationale. It's super simple. It's very simple to follow.
Okay.
The worst scenario will be that you will take 6 capsules twice daily. 6 capsules to take care of Detoxification, I think, is not much to ask. For
Yeah.
most of the protocols on the general detox bundle, is 4 capsules twice daily.
Okay. I feel like I can ask you 500 more questions, but I'm like,
Want to
I
do
mean,
another one?
detoxing is just like, I mean, a whole nother level, and there's so many other protocols that people are doing, and I'm sure we could just go on and on. But where could everyone go find DetoxU? And I just want anyone who's listening and not watching, it's DetoxU, not YOU, but just a U if anyone's searching. So is it detoxu.com? Are you guys on Instagram and everything?
DetoxU.com, detox.u, and the Instagram handle. We have the dot in between the detox and the U. That's the only difference. And yeah, we are mainly in YouTube. We have DetoxU channel where the webinars are uploaded and a lot of informational videos. We do webinars on a monthly basis with different topics for people who are interested. They can sign for those. Just get in our email list and you will receive the communications for those and when they're going to happen. So you can sign up. And yeah, if we are very reachable. I want to break the paradigm that the products are disconnected from the staff and the people who are building this behind the scenes. If you have any questions, let us know. Support@detoxu.com is our email. I get some questions from the email when they're clinically based. So if you have some clinical questions, they might arrive to me and I will be more than happy to answer them.
Is this also something practitioners can use?
Yes. So practitioners, they have a special program that they can apply to. The website for that is pro.detoxu.com. So that professional website is intended for practitioners to create the affiliate accounts if they want to use, to create also wholesale accounts if they want to carry products in their inventory. That's an option too. And also they get all this additional information we're building on a frequent basis. Keep in mind, and I want to mention this, that the detoxification process shouldn't be that complicated. And that's why our product line is very simple, because
Yeah.
detoxification was usually presented as such a complex process. These are 5 products, and that's all you need
Yeah.
to take care of things properly. So, but if you have any questions about anything, please send the questions to us. We're going to take care of that.
Amazing. I'm so excited also for the future of DetoxU and what's to come. So you guys are building an amazing product and I'm really excited for you guys because yes, detoxing seems to be very complicated and it shouldn't be. So I'm glad you guys made it very simple and easy for people to detox. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This was so great. We might have to do an episode 2 because we can keep going.
My
But thank
pleasure.
you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it.